Once again, America escalated tensions in the Middle East, this time with the surprise assassination of high-ranking and revered Iraqi and Iranian military leaders, including Qassem Soleimani. This was an unprecedented assassination of officials from two separate governments. And now Trump is sending thousands of more troops to the Middle East. If you're a weapons company, this is fantastic news. For the rest of us, not so much. On January 2nd, Trump ordered a drone strike assassination in Baghdad of Qassem Soleimani, head of the IRGC's elite Quds Force, which conducts operations in the region outside of Iran, kind of like an Iranian JSOC. Soleimani is a national war hero in Iran and across the region, credited with helping defeat al-Qaeda and ISIS in both Syria and Iraq. America saw him as a threat because of his ability to train Iranian partners in neighboring countries that obstructed American, Israeli, and Saudi imperialism. US officials insist, without evidence, that Soleimani was planning attacks against Americans.
Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel.
But according to Iraq's caretaker prime minister, Soleimani was carrying a response to a Saudi initiative on reducing tensions between Saudi and Iran. He was on a peace mission when the US killed him, exposing Trump's narrative as a lie. Soleimani's death sent shockwaves around the world. He was a senior Iranian government official and perhaps the most popular person in Iran, with an 80% favorability rating. The US killing him at a civilian airport in Baghdad was a violation of international law, of Iraqi sovereignty, and practically a declaration of war. The drone strike also killed Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, the military commander of the Iraqi Popular Mobilization Forces, or PMF, an Iraqi paramilitary group that was formed to fight ISIS and is a formal Iraqi government institution. Together, these men were admired by tens of millions across the Middle East, from Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq to Iran, Yemen, and beyond. Soleimani was a hero for Shias around the world. They both helped prevent the collapse of the region. And in death, they've become even greater heroes, like Shia Che Guevara's. That's why the funeral processions were packed with an ocean of people. While Trump takes credit for defeating ISIS, which came into existence because of destructive US policies, these men and their soldiers actually fought and died doing the groundwork. And in return, the US portrays them as terrorists and kills them. And then you wonder, why do they hate us? Another byproduct of the US escalation? The international coalition paused its anti-ISIS operations to shift their attention to threats from Iran. This wouldn't be the first time the US prioritized anti-Iran maneuvers above fighting actual extremists. That's how we got ISIS in the first place. Some think the assassination is the result of Trump trying to distract from impeachment. They point to Bill Clinton bombing Iraq during his impeachment proceedings. But in fact, Trump has been enjoying and benefiting from the impeachment circus. Instead, the assassination was the inevitable outcome of a gradual US escalation against Iran since Trump took office and ripped up the Iran nuclear deal. They called it maximum pressure. It meant strangling Iran economically, but now it's moved towards war. And Trump, scared of what Iran's response will be, is openly threatening to destroy Iranian culture. The latest escalation started in December when an American contractor was allegedly killed in a rocket attack at a base in northern Iraq. They still haven't released the name of the contractor or his job or pictures of the incident, which is unprecedented. The US blamed a PMF unit called Kataib Hezbollah, but the unit denied it. Nonetheless, the US killed over 20 members of the unit on frontline bases protecting Iraq from ISIS. Weird how they keep killing the Islamic State's enemies. This outraged the PMF, whose fighters flocked to the US embassy to protest. Eventually they left, but the sight of Iraqis storming the perimeter of the billion-dollar heavily fortified embassy was a huge embarrassment.
Videos show the protesters chanting, "God is great, America is the greatest devil," and "down with the USA."
The next day, Trump assassinated Soleimani. It doesn't seem al-Muhandis was a target. He just happened to be with Soleimani, though the US was happy to take him out too. It was an impulsive, rash decision, even though Soleimani had been on the US terrorist list since earlier in the Trump administration. Trump was given options, and killing him was the most extreme. Being the belligerent blowhard he is, and with the encouragement of religious anti-Iran hawks like Mike Pompeo and Mike Pence, he took it. Every American official and pundit, even those who hate Trump and question the wisdom of the assassination, prefaced their statement by reaffirming their belief that Soleimani was evil and he deserved to die.
A terrorist leader responsible for an enormous number of U.S. deaths.
I think it's reasonably a good thing.
Soleimani and his Quds Force were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Americans.
They make it sound like Soleimani flew to the US and shot up a school. No. The talking point they're spreading is based on a lie manufactured during the Bush administration to justify a future war on Iran. The reality is, Soleimani trained some groups in neighboring Iraq, who were fighting the US military that illegally invaded, occupied, and destroyed the country. Omitting that is propaganda. Soleimani also cooperated with the US against the Taliban after 9/11. He stopped helping only after Bush's neocon administration labeled Iran part of the axis of evil and vowed to regime change the country. After his assassination, American officials spread a video showing Iraqis celebrating.
I saw last night there was dancing in the streets in parts of Iraq.
This is video of people celebrating in Iraq that Mishgani received from friends.
But it's well known in Iraq that this is not representative of anybody's reaction. And it was people affiliated with the Dubai-based Sharqiya TV, which is supported by the UAE, that staged the celebration and spread the video. Still, former Bush speechwriter Ari Fleischer was delusional.
I think it is entirely possible that this is going to be a catalyst inside Iran where the people celebrate this killing of Soleimani.
You can file that insanity under they'll greet us as liberators. The opposite happened. From Gaza to Iraq to Iran and Yemen, massive crowds of people mourned his death and vowed revenge against the Americans. This propaganda is par for the course. The discussion of Iran always omits US aggression, whether it's the 1953 US-backed coup, or supporting Saddam's aggression in the Iran-Iraq War, or downing an Iranian civilian airliner, or killing Iranian nuclear scientists, or imposing crippling sanctions. And we killed their national war hero. Now the Iraqis want the US military out of their country, which has led to crazy threats from Trump. Killing an Iranian in Iraq is one thing, but killing an Iraqi, not to mention one as revered as Abu Mahdi, means Iraqis have to respond. So in death, Soleimani accomplished what Iran and the resistance axis have been pushing for, the retreat of the US from the region. Iran is Iraq's neighbor. The US is thousands of miles away. Yet the foreign policy blob thinks America has a right to everything. So Iran's relationship with its neighbor is viewed as malevolent interference, while the US sanctioning, invading, and occupying Iraq for 3 decades is viewed as normal and righteous. Not anymore. Before the assassination, Iraq was in the middle of Iran and America. Now there's no space for Iraqi leaders to side with America at all, and the various Shia tendencies in the country have now united in a hardline alliance that's hostile to the Americans. If Iran is wise and remains restrained in its response, it will have more space in the region to dominate politically. Even Saudi Arabia has sent a delegation to the US to advocate restraint, because they know if there's a war, their country will be exposed to Iranian wrath. Pompeo says this was necessary to protect Americans, but all it did was make Americans in the region less safe. That's why immediately after the assassination, the US called on Americans to leave Iraq and evacuated the embassy. While Trump threatens to bomb Iranian civilians, the people America labels as terrorists seem capable of differentiating between civilians and soldiers. Hassan Nasrallah, Secretary General of Hezbollah, made it clear there will be no threats of any kind to US civilians anywhere.
لا نعني الشعب الأمريكي، لا نعني المواطنين الأمريكيين، ليس المقصود المس بهؤلاء ولا ينبغي المس بهؤلاء، بل أنا أقول لكم البس بالمدنيين والمواطنين الأمريكيين في أي مكان هو يخدم سياسة ترامب.
Same goes for this guy.
مرگ بر آمریکا یعنی مرگ بر ترامپ و جان بولتون و پومپئو. مرگ بر اینا یعنی مرگ بر سردمداران. ما به مردم آمریکا کاری نداریم.
Meanwhile, Democrats continue to be the worst opposition party in history. Even when they're opposing Trump's belligerence, they manage to reinforce his narrative.
Qassem Soleimani was a bad figure. None of us should shed a tear for his death.
Iran's not a good actor. There's no doubt about that. They're a bad actor. And there's more we needed to do with Iran.
Bernie condemned the escalation and introduced legislation to prevent Trump from waging war against Iran without congressional approval. If Democrats were smart, they'd get behind him. Because in 2020 America, there's little appetite for war. Iran is a threat to America because it doesn't comply or conform. This is unacceptable to empire, as Bolivia, Venezuela, and other countries trying to chart an independent course have learned. But murdering Soleimani will not serve as a deterrent. Soleimani was known as a pragmatist and moderate. Now he's been replaced by a hardliner. The entire Shia world has been galvanized and radicalized by the US strikes. Anyone who says war with Iran could be easily won is lying. Let's hope we never have to find out.